Hi, everyone. Welcome into the Rochester Press Box here. I'm Bill Pucko. Glad to be with you. With the guys, as usual, Tariq Spence. How you doing?
I don't know what I'm going to watch. I think I'm just going to spend time with the family on this Father's Day. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to watch. It's like that guy who retires to spend more time with his family.
Yeah.
Be careful what you ask for.
Only to be back for the NFL season.
Wow, Washington, Jersey today.
Well, it's in honor of the first NBA champion in Rochester history, if I'm not mistaken, Thomas Bryant, winning with the Nuggets this week.
Great. Yeah, you pushed that one right past me.
All right.
Well, look, we have champions, to his point. We have a hockey and a basketball champion. What are your takeaways, Tariq?
Quick work. That's what my takeaways are, basically. Yeah. Both in 5 games. I can say this about the Denver Nuggets. I mean, it's great to see a team, a franchise that's never won before. Always sort of been on that sort of cusp of trying to get there, get to the playoffs. Maybe they push it all together. Is this the return of the big man? Because we haven't had sort of this type of play and talk about big men other than Joel Embiid before. But Jokic has won 2 MVPs and really not gotten the credit for those MVPs. Now he's on this big stage to be the guy. Everybody wants to look for him. The guy that can hit the 3, make the pass, and be able to back down players. So, I don't know. It's just a return of the center.
Well, here's
like good luck finding him, too.
Well, that's just the problem, right? Like, he's not a center in the traditional sense. He's Hakeem Olajuwon and he's Bill Russell. He's not Shaquille O'Neal, right? He's not guys that we saw just power themselves through in the 80s into the 90s. He's a very unique player. And to be honest with you, look, I love watching him play basketball. We talked about how efficient that offense is. If you're a basketball nerd, you love watching the Nuggets play. But the way that he plays, you have to wonder, with the years that he has on his body, how sustainable what he is able to do is. Because he's a great distributor. But when the threat of scoring goes away and his game becomes one-dimensional, and by the way, I'm not trying to write a eulogy for the Nuggets right now, but you understand what I'm saying. When you find a player like that, it's great. NBA GMs know as soon as he steps on the clock, boom, your stopwatch starts, and you're limited there.
Here comes the international discussion again, too. Jamal Murray, which I didn't even know he was Canadian before. I just totally missed that one. But, where have I been on Jamal Murray? The same place everybody else been. Underrating him. Yeah. He played very well in these finals and definitely put himself as a great number 2. I don't think he's a number 1 option, but he played like one in the finals, and that's a good enough thing there. The international appeal is going to be interesting, too. With the NBA draft coming up, you're going to hear a lot of players from teams you never heard of before, guys you've only seen on YouTube and on Instagram, and that is the new NBA. This all worked back from the Dream Team. This is 20, 30 years in the making, and it's resulting in a new NBA.
Yeah, remember the things that are right in front of us, too. I think, like the rush to say, Denver is going to, go on this run. I said last week, and I'll stick with it, I think they're capable of winning 3 out of 5, including this one. But there's a lot of good teams still left in the NBA.
Yeah, but there are a lot of good teams that are aging quickly, right? Like, there's a vacuum that has shown up that the Nuggets were sucked right into. I mean, who in the West threatens the Nuggets right now?
I like that, a vacuum that they were sucked into.
And let's not
it's true.
Let's not forget about Giannis, who got hurt early on in that series, and they got them early out. Wouldn't it have been fun to see Giannis go against the Jokic in that finals? It would have probably gone 6, maybe 7.
So give me the hockey take.
I mean, what you saw in both hockey and the NBA are 2 underdog teams that everybody loved that simply ran out of gas, right? Like, you were relying on certain players to do things for you, and when the burden showed up on their shoulders 5, 6, 8 weeks in, they just couldn't do it anymore. I mean, look, I feel bad for the Florida Panthers because they were right there. They were there. They just got overwhelmed by an opponent that, in reality, put a team together that wasn't fair to the rest of the league when they were an expansion franchise anyway. But that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, but there were similar stories, aren't they? I mean, you look at what happened in these 2. They went the same number of games. It was the same kind of thing. I think the underdog just ran out of gas and they got blown away.
Yeah, and I mean, it's fair. And here's the thing, like with hockey, I mean, the last game 5 of the Stanley Cup final, that's a blow-away. But I think Florida played a better game. Those games were closer than people want to give them credit for. It was just 2 styles that one was a superior style to the other. Talent would have overcome that, but again, you had no legs left by the time you got there.
I can expect to see an Eichel jersey next week for Duffy. All sort of things just,
What?
Kumbaya.
Come
on, let it go.
Eichel proved exactly what everyone in Buffalo knew. When he's a leader, the team's a disaster. When he's the 4th best player, he can play. Talent was never the question. It was, is he a leader? And the answer, especially after winning a cup, is no.
That is not an easy torch leadership. Let me first say that. Everybody thinks they want it until they get it.
Or being the 2nd or the 3rd guy. You're a championship 4th best player.
We're the Rochester Press Box, talking Buffalo Bills next.
A ring is a ring.
Just Passing Through, J-Mac, Soccer Sam Fantuzzo, Loretta Scott, Joe Beard, 29 in all, life lessons from notable Rochesterians. Available now.
I have some travel books, Volume 1, Volume 2. You'll be able to get one of these books for free when you buy the new Volume 2 for only $14.95. Contact me at MikeTheGetawayGuy@gmail.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Our Buffalo Bills segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. For 3 generations, celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today and find out how we do Honda right at ralphhonda.com. So, my take on the whole Stefon Diggs thing is I wish these guys would have some semblance of appreciation for how much damage they do to the psyche of the geographical area they play in when they start behaving like this.
Well, but here's the thing. Look, I feel you 100%. Like, when that story broke on Tuesday, it ruined the rest of my, why are we doing this? I'm blaming Madden for all of this. However, we don't know what the situation is right now. It's easy for us to sit here, as we tape this and say, well, what could the big deal be? What if it is a legitimate
I know, with
big
Josh
deal?
Allen dropping that as a non-football related thing, it makes you pull back and say, dude, how much can I say about this?
Well, that's just it. I have no idea what's going on. I want to hear more because here's the thing, Stefon Diggs, for all the drama that was supposed to come with him from Minnesota, has been an unbelievably good teammate. He's been an unbelievably good citizen, right? Everybody loves him. He goes out, he's playing catch with kids, right? He's giving kids gifts. He's been lovable the entire time. So for someone who has been that way to then turn the way it has the last couple of months, I want to hear what the deal is before I make a final judgment.
All I see is him standing in front of Josh Allen at the end of that playoff game, just berating him in a very public forum.
But then you get to Josh Allen basically saying that's a brother. This is what somebody, you know what I mean? I love him like a brother.
That sure is high road. That's a hard thing to do.
But not only is it high road, it's professional. Let's be honest with you. Allen did not play well in that game. And I know a lot of people want to go back to that moment, but now I'm a little bit more concerned with what Duffy had to say about Stefon Diggs. You ever have a moment where you walk in a room and you feel uncomfortable and you're like, whoa.
Every week when I come in here.
No, not that uncomfortable.
Okay,
I'm in
gotcha.
another form of uncomfortable, like we're splitting up the band or something doesn't feel right or there's a bad vibe here. And then you have other teams that are sort of going into these. You have, let's put it this way. You have Aaron Rodgers on the Jets who hates going to these things, not showing up to them and making new friends in New York. And then you have guys who are supposedly friends, not really on the same page, where I think Diggs was in Buffalo and had met the GM and the coach, but just didn't go to the mandatory camp. Something doesn't feel right.
I will say this, if you want to feel better about what's going on here, keep in mind we don't know anything as we tape this show, right? It was 1989, and you know this because you were covering everything, that the bickering Bills all of a sudden show up, where Bill Polian has to give an out-of-town press conference to address things that Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly were saying about each other, a non-harmony, and the next year, the Bills went to their first Super Bowl. I have had a theory this entire time that internal drama makes a team better because it gives you a clock, right? When everything's going well, it feels like this band's going to be together forever. We can do this as many times as we need to. When you start to see cracks within the facade, well, now these players realize if we don't get this done soon, it might never happen.
I was really worried about the Madden cover thing because I was going to come in. I don't know if anybody knows about this, to sort of curse with this Madden thing. And it's some of them, you can have examples of good, more examples of bad. But the one with the fans kind of worked for me. I hope they use that one.
It's great. They put that out a week later that his starting wide receiver doesn't practice at camp.
There's no way out. In terms
he'll
of
be in
Bills,
the game, Duffy.
The first thing you hear is, kind of the idiotic reactionary thing is trade him, do it. There is no out here for Buffalo.
If you trade Stefon Diggs, $14 million in dead cap this year, $30 million in dead cap, they're handcuffed to each other. Man, it is what it is. And look, Josh Allen said it, and I'm paraphrasing on Tuesday in his post-practice comments. It's going to get hyped up. It's not like we play a game on Sunday. It's June. Everything, heck, he could show up to the rest of the days of minicamp and everything's totally fine and everything's blown over. Just deep breaths.
That's important. That's
Dude,
important.
If he's not on this team, you're going into a very uncomfortable season.
He has to be. There's no way he's not. No, I'm saying
want that.
Financially, there's no way he's not.
I get you.
Our Buffalo Bills segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road.
Hello again, Mike O'Brien, your getaway guide. Today I'm in the Finger Lakes, Skinny Atlas, and today's getaway is a boat ride getaway. Come along for the ride. Check out the getaway guy on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Hey, welcome back. Rochester Press Box, Bill Pucko with you. Our Like It or Not segment brought to you by Sport Clips, where the MVP experience is better than ever. Sport Clips. It's a game changer. No appointments needed. Stop by a Rochester location today. I got my pick of teams that are your teams that are doing poorly.
Please don't pick the Mets. Please don't pick the
All
Mets.
right,
Please
let's
don't
do
pick
the
Mets.
Giants.
Great.
Saquon Barkley, franchise tag, not in camp. Concerned?
Very much so. Matter of fact, I'd much rather be in Duffy's situation with the Bills with Stefon Diggs than to be in a situation right now with a running back who is looking for high market value, whose position is not getting that value yet, feels as if he deserves it because he's been a great football player as far as a model and player for years. Now, I know he had the one season where he was injured, but he's done everything that the Giants have asked him to do. And he was looking for that payday, and it went to Daniel Jones. So that means there's not that much money left. And so we kind of knew this was going to happen. So I feel very uncomfortable as a Giants fan. I want Barkley on the team. I don't want him at the $10 million. I think he's owed a little bit more than that. But then there's the cap space and all the money that Jones, you're putting a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. Pressure that I feel as if he is not going to be able to rise
The
to.
NFL's treatment of its running back seems almost immoral to me. I mean, the fact that these guys,
Cook,
the short term, they get one contract. Who'd want to be a running back anymore? Look what happened to, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, kind of similar boats.
Yeah. And there's a couple of players that want to change positions, even on the defensive end. There's guys that want to change positions because they want to get paid at certain high positions, whether it's linebacker or defensive end or whatever it may be. We need Saquon Barkley to run the football. He's not that easily replaceable.
I heard, just the last thing quickly, I heard somebody suggest, the solution is sign Dalvin Cook and release Saquon and save all this money.
No, that's not the solution. I would not do that.
And they're way different players anyway.
And then you got to readjust your offense. And Dable, who knows how that's going to work? I mean, we're stuck. We're stuck, and we're going to have to pay, like I'm paying the money. The Giants are stuck in a situation where they're going to have to try to appease Saquon Barkley, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it.
Like it or not, a season ahead for the Buffalo Sabres, who suddenly look pretty good.
Yeah, you mean the soon-to-be playoff-bound Buffalo Sabres?
We kind of hope.
Well, look at it this way. The team, everyone's taking step forwards. Donnie Meatballs Granato, their head coach there, he has been a breath of fresh air. And Seth Appert here in Rochester is pushing these guys in Rochester not only into winning games, but developing them along the way. You're going to see 2 or 3 guys that are going to immediately contribute to the bottom 6 of the Buffalo Sabres from Rochester this year. You are a top 4 defenseman and a depth defenseman away from immediately improving your blue line. You have 2 top 2 defensemen already in your system. The only question is going to be, what do you do at goalie, right? Do you go out, do you find a veteran to play behind Devin Levi, the kid who played a handful of games?
That's like finding your closer in a baseball sense. These guys come and go. Like a goalie doesn't seem to be able to put together 3 or 4 good years. Like, you just keep trying as often as you can and get lucky with one.
And that's exactly what it is. You have a guy that plays goal for you for 10 years, or you replace him every 2 or 3 years. And look, that's been the Sabres' problem. If they had consistent goaltending over the last 10 years, this streak wouldn't exist. But injuries happen, guys on downswings happen, guys right before they figure it all out happen. If Levi is the answer, there's no question this Sabres team is a perennial playoff team for the next however many years. But do you trust a guy that's played a handful, and when I say a handful, 10 NHL games? You also have Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who was your future.
You just like saying
I
that.
do love saying it's a fun name. Fun name to say.
Yeah.
But he was your future. Now Levi is the guy that seems to have jumped him. Do you go with them as your 1-2, both unproven? If you bring in a veteran goalie, you have to probably ship out Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Does he become part of that deal? What if he, much like Robin Lehner when he left Buffalo, much like Linus Ullmark when he left Buffalo, what if he becomes a star? Are you risking giving up on him too early? It's a whole thing.
Yeah. Finished 1 point behind the team that played in the Stanley Cup Finals. Our Like It or Not segment was brought to you by Sport Clips. Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished Business is brought to you by the Genesee Brew House, your beer destination since 2012. Visit the gift shop, enjoy a tasting at our pilot brewery, and dine at the pub-style restaurant, the Genesee Brew House. Pat, start us.
Thomas Bryant, Rochester's own Kearney grad, is an NBA champion. And we're talking about it on the Break Room, the radio show I do on WCMF. And it harkened back to the old NBA championship in the 50s from the Rochester Royals, something I bring up all the time, something my co-host Tommy Muley says doesn't count. So finally I call him on it. I think he's just being a jerk. Why doesn't it count? And he explained in a way smarter way than I anticipated. He said he doesn't think that Rochester has an NBA championship because when we won it, there weren't a lot of black players in the NBA. And that wasn't by accident. And he went further to elaborate that when he looks at old sports from the 50s on down, he doesn't hold those records or championships in high regard either because they weren't playing against the best competition. And I wanted to kill him for some terrible take he had. But he's right. And when you look back at all of these leagues, whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, which still has a problem with this, or the NBA, it's hard to tell what things could have been had the best competition been playing the entire time. Is Babe Ruth still Babe Ruth if the Kansas City Monarchs don't exist? Do the Rochester Royals go on the run that they have if Bill Russell ends up in St. Louis like he should have been instead of being dealt before he's drafted because of the racist undertones of playing in Missouri during the Jim Crow South? It really turns sports upside down. And it makes you think what names we would know so much better if things were just straight up fair across the board.
You gotta love when there's moments where something terrible happens to you that you're not expecting, but it works out for the best. Thomas Bryant was on the Los Angeles Lakers playing with LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and a number of other stars. And then he's traded to the Denver Nuggets, a team that had never won an NBA championship prior to this past week. Well, that NBA championship comes with Thomas Bryant on the team. So it just goes to show you, sometimes terrible things happen. You get dumped, you lose a job, you don't get what you were looking for, and then things eventually turn out to be even better for you. You achieve a goal that you might have thought wasn't possible before. Now, I know Thomas Bryant went to the Denver Nuggets when they were number one, but did you really think the Denver Nuggets were going to win an NBA championship? I didn't think so. They did. And for Thomas Bryant, who is a great individual and who I've met personally, I'm so happy for him. His dream has come true of being an NBA championship. Probably in a moment, I haven't talked to him about it yet, in which he thought, why are they getting rid of me because I put so much work in? Sometimes things work out for the best, even though it feels like disaster. Thomas Bryant, it worked out.
Remember the Denver Larks? That's okay, nobody does. They were briefly a team in the old American Basketball Association. Not actually a team, I guess, because they never played. When the ABA was born in 1967, a team was supposed to be located in Kansas City. That didn't work out. So they moved it to Denver. It became the Larks, in honor of the Colorado State bird. They couldn't afford to take the court, were subsequently sold, rebranded the Rockets, and became a cornerstone franchise of the ABA. The Larks wound up a footnote, interesting only because no other team was ever so named, unless you include Heston College in Kansas. Well, I like team names, and the ABA had some of the best. There were Pipers, Claws, Conquistadors, and Squires. My favorite was the Spirits of St. Louis, named for the airplane that Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic with. They played just 2 seasons. The director of operations was a former DNC sports writer, Rudy Martzke, whose major contribution was giving Bob Costas his first job calling play-by-play. The American Basketball Association lasted 9 seasons and forced a merger with the NBA. The red, white, and blue basketball, the three-point basket, the slam dunk contest, and 4 of the 7 teams survived. Of note, the New Jersey Nets were forced to pay territorial rights to the New York Knicks. They offered the Knicks Hall of Famer Julius Erving in lieu of payment. Dr. J. New York took the cash. How things might have changed. What do you think, Tariq? Anyway, the Denver Larks, who became the Denver Rockets, became the Nuggets in '74, and this week became the second former ABA team to win an NBA championship, giving life and recognition, however briefly, to those teams that came before, like the Anaheim Amigos, the Minnesota Muskies, and the Dallas Chaparrals. That is our Unfinished Business, brought to you by the Genesee Brew House, and that is our show. You guys have any favorite team names?
I do. I have a favorite player's name, Teemu Selanne. Love it in the NHL.
Very good.
Oh, if we're going to talk hockey names other than Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Which you love to say.
Maxim Afinogenov.
Oh.
And I went deep. I had Sonny Six Killer. Was a former
Sonny Six Killer?
Was a Washington University quarterback on the cover of SI one year.
It's a great name.
Hey, that is our show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.
It's a real guy?
The real guy.